What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line podcast. You're listening to episode 220. I am your host, Greg, who is not dead. In fact, I am about 75% alive. And I am here tonight with Ryan and Tyler. The Red Wings suck ass right now, but we're all kicking it. So how are you guys doing tonight? How was last week? I listened, I had to edit and I listened, but how'd you guys fare?
I learned that I need a script for the opening and closing because I just sit here and kind of black out while you say it more often than not. So me doing it, while not bad, wasn't good. So next time you try to pull this shit, I need a little one pager.
So next time I get the plague, just set you up with something to say.
Exactly. It'd be always good to have a backup plan. And there wasn't one other than you pressing play. But other than that, good. I got to spend some time in Detroit this weekend. Kid-free with the wife. We saw Bert Kreischer comedy show Friday night.
I had a ton of friends there.
Oh, my God. Amazing. We've seen Tom Segura also. They do two Bears, One Cave and some other random comedy shit together. Tom was fantastic. Bert somehow managed to one-up him.
Did he do the whole show without his shirt on?
Oh, that was the first thing he did. Came out, yelled something, took his shirt off, chugged a beer. Epic.
That should have been the whole show. Left the stage, everyone. Applause.
He probably could have gotten away with it being just as amazing by just doing that. But no, it was a good time. And then while we were at that show, a few beers deep, the wife and I decided we wanted to go to the Red Wings debacle of a game on Saturday. So we bought tickets for that. Made it into a fun little adults-only weekend. So I've been coming off that high to see the Wings losing 5-0. So it is what it is. But Tyler?
I mean, my weekend started off on Thursday because I had Friday a half day. So I kind of took that as more of like a, bullshit kind of thing. So I kind of got drunk watching the Michigan hockey game. Didn't go the way that we wanted it to go, unfortunately. And I think between Michigan losing to Quinnipiac and Minnesota losing in the national championship to Quinnipiac as well, Michigan and Minnesota their hockey programs might as well be the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point. Because both schools produce great players, NHL caliber players. They always have high draft picks, and then they lose to schools like Quinnipiac that have, some of the older rosters in the NCAA, players that kind of play for the team as opposed to guys that I'm not saying that they're not team players, but like when you have so many skilled players like that on one team, like Michigan and even Minnesota, they tried to do the same thing against Quinnipiac where they would just kind of try to go 1-on-4 into the zone. You got to dump the puck in.
Either go one off or they try to force it to that guy sometimes more often than not.
But I will say one thing. I don't know if you guys watched the Frozen Four or anybody listening watched it, but it was fantastic. I mean, the games were awesome. And, but anyways, my weekend was good. I hope your guys' was as well. The weather's finally starting to heat up a little bit here, which is good. I'm going to Fenway, I think, this weekend, so that should be fun.
It's supposed to be like 70 degrees for the rest of the week, which is beautiful, and sunny and 70 for the rest of the week.
Great timing for softball.
My highlight was, which I didn't get to talk about it last week because I was dead and my whole family has basically been sick perpetually for 2 weeks now, which has not been fun. But I got to take my daughter to her first game, and it was against the Penguins, and we did have that huge win where we scored 7 goals and David Perron had a hat trick, and she was super excited and it was awesome. And I saw Mario there while I was there, and
That's
I saw
awesome.
Jake while I was there, and they're like, yes, you need to get her season tickets because when she is here, we just go on a crazy offensive tear and we beat a Penguins team who looked like they were going to come back. And it was a fantastic win, and she had an excellent time. So it was a lot of fun. And thanks to Stacy from the social team who
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, we went down to ice level for warmups because she made a sign. Player didn't give her a puck, but Stacy came over and gave her a puck, which was really awesome of her, and it made her night. And she has a little stuffed animal, Dylan Larkin, now, which is in her bed, and she's loving it. She's loving life right now. We do have a show. We have a show tonight, and I swear it'll be structured mostly, and then I know what to say for the most part.
Is that a dig at last week?
That is, well, you said it yourself, not me.
And you were going there. You had a smart ass grin on your face.
And we'll get through it, guys. And I actually want to start with
I thought we had a good flow last week. No, I'm not letting this go. I thought we had a really good flow.
I thought our flow was fantastic. Fuck you, Greg.
You don't have any hair, Tyler.
Gerg.
It was easy to edit. I'll give you guys that. It was really
You're
easy
welcome,
to edit. There was
sir. You're
no
welcome.
stuttering. You only missed maybe one fact that you had to look up, and I had to edit some stuff out.
Yeah,
Other than that, it was all fine. But tonight, we do have a show. And I'm going to start with something that I didn't even tell you guys about because I forgot about it. But the Grand Rapids Griffins signed defenseman Jeremie Biakabutuka to an amateur tryout. I love this. Now, if you guys remember, Biakabatuka was a invitee to the prospect tournament. He was a standout during the prospect tournament and during camp, and he was like one of the last cuts that were made. After the prospect tournament, he was actually offered a contract by the Chicago Wolves, and he turned it down, went on to play another year in juniors, and he's been very, very good. And I think this is a good sign for him. I wonder if Yzerman kind of put a little bug in his ear that said, hey, don't take that contract. We're going to get you in the system in one way. We want you to have a really good junior year. And I think by all accounts that he's done it. And that I think if you're looking for guys who can come in on defense and just kind of make an impact, I think he may be able to be a bottom of the lineup or a good 7D option or a good AHL player. And it's kind of to me like, why not take that chance, right? Like, why not just try and pick up a guy who's not going to cost you anything that may be just a late bloom?
I mean, the biggest thing is an ATO that he's signed to right now with Grand Rapids, right? So amateur tryout. But I mean, that's huge because I think all of us, when we were talking through training camp and prospect camp, we loved what he could bring. He wasn't afraid to throw the body on. He could skate well and he had some smooth hands. Now I get it. A lot of it was against lower competition, but arguably some of it was AHL and below. And he didn't look completely out of place. So to see him now get an ATO to finish out the year with Grand Rapids, who, correct me if I'm wrong, are they still kind of trying to survive, or is it officially done?
They're fighting tooth and nail.
They're to trade up until a week ago.
It's so like, I think they lose one more game and they're out. Something.
Gotcha.
But it's not looking promising.
So, but he still gets some games in at the pro level. Maybe it turns into a contract. They're likely going to need to sign guys anyways, because you're not going to see Simon Evanson back there anymore. You may not see a couple other guys down there coming next season. So who knows? Maybe Lashoff retires, or that'd be interesting if he does stick around. Oh, Perron scored. We finally did something. That's cool.
And Larkin gets a point, so he stays on his pace.
Hey, there we go. So, but no, Biakabatuka, I like the signing, or correction, I like the tryout given to him for Grand Rapids, and I really hope it does lead to some sort of contract, whether it's Grand Rapids or a two-way, anything. I think it'd be awesome to see that happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the last name Biakabatuka holds a very special place in the heart of Michigan fans and people in the state of Michigan.
Take a shot. Tyler mentioned Michigan.
That is a name for the name game Hall of Fame right there, though.
Exactly. I mean, Tim Biakabatuka, obviously before I was born, but a hell of a Michigan Wolverine football player. But we're talking about Jeremie Biakabutuka, and I mean, from what I remember and what my recollection of him is he was solid. I mean, he was one of the bright spots, or I shouldn't say one of, but he was certainly in the upper echelon of the bright spots of training camp, and a lot of people said that there was a chance he could make the team, or at least
I think I said that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of surprising that he ended up going back to junior, but I guess maybe that was like Steve Yzerman saying, hey, if you don't take that contract and you go back to junior, you can come back and we'll sign you on an ATO or a PTO or whatever. And, maybe that'll work out for him. Hopefully it does, because like I said, he seemed like a solid kid. And, honestly, at the end of the day, the Wings, yes, you do have Edvinsson, and you do still have a lot of these younger defensemen that are going to have to crack the lineup. But you know what? When those guys come up, the Johanssons and, those guys, it's going to get dicey there in Grand Rapids. You're going to need someone to play in Grand Rapids or someone to come out of nowhere and become, a top 6 defenseman. And so maybe Biakabatuka is that guy. I know it won't be next year probably, but could it be 2 years from now? I think the more that you think about it, the more you look at team building and stuff like that, you have to find these diamonds in the rough. I'm not saying that he's going to be a top 4 defenseman or even a top pair defenseman, but if he's your 7th defenseman and he's a guy that you got on a fucking PTO, you're winning right there. He's an impact player at that point.
I mean, what stands out to me, and we knew this originally, obviously, but he just turned 21 a month ago, but he's 6'4", 203, and he's a right shot defenseman,
which we have zero.
Especially,
we just signed Antti Tuomisto, but
right
at 21 years old, 6'4", 203, that's Steve Yzerman build right there.
Yep. And it's depth. Needed young depth. So again, does it mean that it's going to turn into a contract? Not necessarily, but either way, if he can actually, I think that he's going to have enough tools to come in and do something. And that's going to be what's important for Grand Rapids, especially.
Tyler, here's a quiz for you. So you're going to gush over Tim Biakabatuka. Do you know his full first name?
No clue. I know he's from Montreal, though, right?
It's Tshimanga. Tshimanga. Tshimanga Biakabatuka.
That might be one of the most amazing names that has ever existed.
It's a pretty crazy name.
We have a buddy of ours who we call Moose. He's Syrian. His name is Musa Shamoun. We call him Moose. That's amazing.
That's like a professional wrestler name right there. But for Jeremie Biakabutuka, and this is kind of going to show you a little bit of his progression and why he went back to, not why he went back to junior, but what another year in junior, and kind of maybe show a step he took. In 2021-22, in 60 total games, he had 26 points. That was 10 goals and 16 assists. But in 2022-23 for the Charlottetown Islanders in the QMJ, in 56 games, he had 42 points, 17 goals, and 25 assists. He played in 4 playoff games where he didn't have anything. But 40 to go to up that much, almost basically double your output almost. I mean, I think it's promising. And he had the offensive instinct during the prospect tournament. And
big time.
EP has his, on his draft guide was written, Biakabatuka loves to join the rush, and it's something he could continue doing with the pros due to his superior skating. He has clear defensive pride, consistently judging the best defensive angles. He's engaged, keeps his head turning, and is always in an athletic position. He has the wingspan necessary to make stops against professionals and be disruptive off the rush, which is what we need, which is something that if you put him in place of a Jordan Osterley or a Gustav Lindstrom, I don't think you lose anything, but I think you have a lot to gain in just size alone there. And by no means did he look like a bad skater when he was playing. And I don't think there's any downside. So right now it is just a tryout with the Griffins. It could go into the offseason as maybe a contract with Detroit, and maybe he ends up in the AHL and plays games there and is a call up. But like you said, that we're going to need fill-in guys. You gotta think Edvinsson's going to make the roster next season. Johansson has a chance to make the roster. And then maybe you get a guy like Biakabatuka who plays in Grand Rapids and is a first call-up. Or he replaces a bottom D-man, and then you don't have to go spend any money. Or you don't have to maybe think that Jordan Osterley or Gustav Lindstrom slot in and maybe they do something to cost you a game, which anyone could do. But I think if you're looking to replace that position, you can always get younger and bigger there with space to move. So I think it's a good move and literally no downside because it's a free player.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, I'm looking at Cap Friendly right now because right now you've got Seth Barton, right D, 23 years old. He's on an expiring deal. He's arbitration eligible. Your other right D is Wyatt Newpower, 25 years old, also arbitration eligible. And then we mentioned Tuomisto. He's just signed his 2-year deal, so he's not going anywhere. So the need is there at the Grand Rapids level. Whether or not this plays out to be a 2-year contract like we saw with Tuo, who knows? I would assume that's probably what we could end up seeing, or is he eligible for 3? I wouldn't think so, correct?
No, Tuomisto's a 2-year contract.
No, I'm sorry, Biakabatuka.
He's 21, so he would
So he
only
could do
get
3.
Yeah. What did Alex Doucette sign?
3.
Yeah, so he's same age.
Okay, so maybe that could be the expectation, and you're not hurt by that, because if you're not bringing back one of Barton or Newpower, now you have a right D need in Grand Rapids. So I would like it. I think all of us were on the same page and hoping he was going to get a contract coming out of camp in Grand Rapids. I think it'll be great, and if the skating's there and some of the development is there from what you mentioned in terms of what he did in the queue this year, you can't go wrong.
We do have another young guy to talk about who has actually earned some accolades here pretty recently. Amadeus Lombardi, who will be the best name on the Red Wings.
Amadeus.
It's going to be fantastic when he takes the ice and they do. I mean, they're going to have to play the song for him when he comes out.
They need to bring back goal-specific player goal songs just for him to blast that every time he frickin' scores.
But the OHL coaches were polled and the results came out. Scott Wheeler tweeted them out this morning. But Amadeus Lombardi was named the smartest player in the West, as well as the second best playmaker and second best stick handler by OHL coaches. And this kid just continues to be super impressive, setting records for Flint this season. In 67 games played, he has 45 goals and 57 assists for 102 points, including 5 points in the playoffs right now. And he's just like an unstoppable force. He does everything right. And I think that's where you kind of look at maybe, and I don't know if I would consider him a diamond in the rough, maybe, because he was selected in 2022 round 4, number 113. And you don't really find guys that go on to do this kind of stuff. Now, it is the CHL. No, granted, it's the OHL, so it's not the Q. They do play some defense in the OHL. But you don't really find guys at 113 who go from having a 59-point season to a 102-point season in their second OHL season. He's 19 years old. The only downside is he's 5'10", 165. So he's small. He's light. He plays center right now. I don't think he would play center in the NHL. I think they would move him over to a wing, which again could make him even more dangerous.
Do you think he'd be like a DeBrincat light?
You mean light in just the fact that he's not as heavy? Because I think he may have more scoring talent than DeBrincat. I mean, he's overall, based on what I've seen, he looks like a smarter player than Alex DeBrincat.
I mean, that's a win if that's the case.
DeBrincat's just a guy that fires from that left circle on the power play, I feel like.
Yeah, but more often than not, I mean, it was working for him until he went to a subpar, an even more subpar team.
Until he didn't have Patrick Kane passing him the puck?
That too. Yeah, you lose Taves, Kane, guys like that. Granted, now he does have a Kachuk to set him up, and he is on that one of the top ranked power plays there, so it's not like he's lost a lot, but I don't know. Who would you rather have, Patrick Kane or Claude Giroux as your setup man?
I think it's close. I mean, Patrick Kane, obviously a great playmaker, but so is Claude Giroux.
Yeah.
You know, both of those guys are pretty damn good at what they do. So
yeah, Patrick Kane's just a better goal scorer than Claude Giroux.
That's what exactly.
Yeah,
Giroux had that one year where he had like 38 goals, and at that time, that was kind of a lot. So.
Well, Amadeus Lombardi's scouting report says Lombardi's game is one of speed and skill as he races defenders along the perimeter. He looks for teammates on the inside. He connects with backhand and forehand passes under or over defenders' sticks without much windup. If a pass isn't an option, he beats defenders with a combination of handling skill and well-conceived setups. He puts the puck into a defender's space, waits for the poke, then chips the puck under their stick or pulls it around. And he's confident making these plays off the backhand and under heavy pressure, which we have seen. He is one I am super excited for. He is one that Yzerman wasted no time signing. He will be in Grand Rapids next season. You've got to believe it. And it's again, those guys that Yzerman picks up that maybe he sees something in that other teams might not. And I think the big thing for him was, I think he missed that COVID season. I think he could have started earlier than he did. And he missed the whole 2020-21 season. And that's where we were hoping, and we had talked about it way back before the draft, that maybe you pick up on a guy who others weren't heavily scouting, that missed some time playing because of the pandemic, and maybe you hit on a guy like that. And this is looking like it could be a situation where Yzerman may have hit on a guy that others just didn't get enough look at.
My thoughts are, I mean, we've kind of talked about players that are diamonds in the rough kind of thing, but like you got to think that one of these is going to hit like and become like a impact player, like a first or second line winger kind of thing. Like, I mean, he's doing it an awful lot, which means to tell you that like a Braden Point kind of thing or like something like that is possible. You know,
I was going to mention him exactly. So I like that call out.
I'm not saying Amadeus Lombardi is going to be Braden Point or Tyler Johnson or anything like that, but like, you know, you got to think that at some point, one of these, Biakabatuka or, you know, this guy or Carter Mazer, I guess Carter Mazer was a little bit of a higher draft pick, but still, like, you got to.
What are these depth picks going to? One of these going to be your standout guy that you weren't maybe you were expecting, but you're like, it's a matter of when, not if.
Like, I mean, we hate to go back to the Datsuk and Zetterberg comparisons and stuff like that. Like, that probably doesn't happen as much nowadays, but it still happens. And there's still a possibility that, you know, you draft a player in the 5th round or the 4th round, they do become, you know, a superstar. That does happen.
Now, if you want to make the Braden Point comparison, he's 5'10", 183. So 20 pounds heavier, which he could do, which you can put on 20 pounds of muscle. That's fine.
But the way he plays on the puck, though, that's what separates him, I think.
And Braden Point was drafted round 3, number 79. So he was drafted decently further ahead than where Lombardi is. But like you said, it's a matter of keep trying until you do hit someone like that. And that's what every team tries to do. But Yzerman has done it before. And I think that is where the little bit of hope kind of sparkles there, that maybe there's something there. But it seems like with Lombardi and the OHL coaches also seem to see it. And that's the thing, is this is not a fan vote. This is not a player vote. This is a coach vote. And it's coaches from all over the league saying, yes, he is the smartest player in the West. And I think that's pretty damn impressive for a guy that wasn't drafted until the 4th round and is in his second OHL season.
So I have 2 things on him, just real quick. So the fact that he had 102 points in the OHL, I mean, that's not exactly the Q. The O is, you know, that's a tougher league. And, you know, to put up 102 points, and he's already got 5 points in 6 games in the playoffs. And I think, game 7's tomorrow or something.
To put that into even more perspective, the top scorer in the OHL right now is Matthew Maggio from the Windsor Spitfires. Second is Ty Voigt from the Sarnia Sting with 105. Lombardi is third with 102.
And that's impressive.
The highest score is 54 goals, 57 assists in 66 games, 111 points.
Game 7's going on right now. Saginaw, that's crazy that it's Saginaw versus Flint. It's Saginaw is up 3-1 after 2.
In the Ontario Hockey League too, right? That's a middle finger to Canada. But I guess just the other thing that I'm seeing on Lombardi, he's from Newmarket, Ontario. You know who else is from Newmarket, Ontario? Connor McDavid.
Okay. You know who scored the first?
Ryan's like, whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever. We found our new McDavid. Here we go.
Does he get to wear 97?
God, that'd be fantastic. But
98
to go along with the Lombardi love right now, though. Did you see his toe drag swag from the game tonight?
Tonight, no.
Oh, he actually opened the scoring against Saginaw. The defenseman sprawling across the ice as he was coming in just inside the faceoff dot in the offensive zone. Defenseman went down to block and tried to poke at him. He got his skate in the way of the extended stick, dragged the puck back to his back foot, and then roofed it on the goalie. It was beautiful.
See, that's just, and again, that's split second decision making. That's the difference between an NHL player and an AHL player.
All right, take that back. He went through the arms of the goaltender, but
doesn't matter.
Great play regardless.
That was Datsukian.
It's still the split second decision making.
Yep,
is what it is.
Because he beat 2 defenders around the boards. Looks like I couldn't tell if it was a loose puck. He picked up a loose puck in the neutral zone and then just beat 2 guys flat-footed and then beat the third one in tight.
there's a second video of it posted by the OHL. If you keep watching the video, that it's like a little bit of a better angle. Oh my God.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah.
And like I said, Datsuki and the fact that he was able to finish makes me not want to compare him to Darren Helm.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. Here comes the hate mail.
All right. Well, what we're going to do really quick is we're going to take a break for our sponsor message from DraftKings before we get on to the second part of the show, which is going to be college and juniors, like unsigned drafted guys who are going to become free agents. So we'll be right back in just a minute after a message from DraftKings. From tee to green, the best place to go to get in on all the action happening on the links is DraftKings Sportsbook. This week, new customers will receive an odds boost to add plus 1,000 to any pre-tournament wager up to $10 on any golfer to win. So for example, if you're a new customer and you see a golfer to win the tournament at plus 1,000 odds, DraftKings will boost that golfer to plus 2,000 odds for your shot at a bigger payout. DraftKings will be featuring parlays and odds boosts all tournament long, so be sure to check the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day before the tournament starts to see what they have in store. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, and boost your odds during the weekend's tournament. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. And we're back. And the Red Wings have some decisions to make. Not a lot of hard ones, I don't think.
Surprisingly, maybe.
I don't think it's surprising. I think some of it is leftovers from the Ken Holland era that just Yzerman's going to... If Yzerman is playing a game of smash or pass, he's passing on like all of these, I think is what's happening. So we're going to go through the line. There's about 6 players or 7 players that are coming up. If they don't get a contract, they become a free agent. And we're going to start with John Adams, also known as Jack Adams. He's playing at the University of Notre Dame. He's 26 years old. It's not happening. 6'6", 216 pounds. He did have some injury issues for a while there. And I mean, in 32 games for the University of Notre Dame, 7 goals, 6 assists for 13 points. Last season had 16 points, didn't play in 2019-20 or 2021. The season before at Union College had 22 and 38. I think it's just the age thing plus the not showing a ton of improvement. It's just not going to happen. He's got some pretty wild social media stuff too that people wouldn't be happy about. But he is a guy that is not going to be signed. I mean, if you look at I think a lot of it comes down to look at our depth chart and look at what the guys on our depth chart are doing that are in the system that are signed, like a Lombardi, and compare it to what these guys who have been drafted for 2, 3, 4 years are doing. And it's not comparable.
Yeah, like Carter Mazer, for instance.
Exactly. When you get a Carter Mazer who comes in and lights it up and you show that great step in development and you get your contract before a guy who was drafted in 2017 or 2019, it kind of spells it out for the guy who was drafted in 2019, right?
Yeah, it's disappointing because you look at his stat line, like he had a fantastic draft year, basically. I don't know if you want to call it fantastic, but
and I mean, he was a 6th round draft pick, Ryan.
I mean, you had 60 points in 56 games, so you finally do get drafted. That's your highlight, though, because now the rest of your career, not even including COVID, is you can't stay on the ice more or less. But now, granted, a lot of it is college hockey, so they play a shortened season. You go from 56 games to 28, 38, 6 in COVID, 38, 32. But the points just didn't, after the USHL going to the NCAA, they didn't replicate. And when you're 6'5", 194, you kind of need things to go your way because that's a great tool set. But it just, I don't know. He had an awesome name to go with it. So we were excited and then nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot on this one in particular. I wouldn't be against them not signing him. If they did sign him and they put him in Toledo, I don't see that there would be an issue there. I don't think he's probably ready. Maybe he's ready for the AHL. I guess it just depends on who's coming in and who's coming out in terms of making the wings. But yeah, I mean, that would be my thing.
I think the next one is what the one Tyler's going to have a little bit more to talk on, and I'm going by kind of year they were drafted in. So that was the oldest one. Now we're moving on to 2019, round 2, number 54 overall, which was Robert Mastrosimone. He is 22 years old, 5'10", 170 pounds, shoots left. He did play for Boston University for 3 seasons before moving to Arizona State this season. This season, numbers are really good. 42 points in 38 games, 11 goals, 31 assists. But it's just that he's one that I'd like them to sign just for depth, but it sounds like he might be unwilling to sign. And I don't know if he sees the same thing. It's just you look at the guys who are signing that were drafted after you, and you look at the depth. But again, the Red Wings are a team that are going to need probably some fill-in guys. There will be room in Grand Rapids. And if you're just saying, I don't want to take part in it, or maybe he got out to Arizona and realized he likes the warm weather and wants to play out west, I don't know. But Tyler, he played for Boston.
Yeah, he played at BU. I mean, he was a guy that kind of brought you out of your seat. But then, he went through some injuries and then he transferred to Arizona State, and he seemed to have a good season. Arizona State was a team that they started off pretty hot. And their season kind of went to shit. They play a lot of the Western teams, so they'll play a lot of Minnesota, they'll play a lot of Denver. They played pretty much an independent schedule, so they can play pretty much whoever they want. And they went 18-21, and they didn't make the NCAA tournament. So Master Simone, a good player. I think he's a little, from what my recollection is, he's 5'10", and I think he plays a little, like, not bigger. He plays about that size. So if he's going to play in the NHL, or at least in the AHL, he's going to have to put on a little bit of weight, I would think. He's not really the most physical guy in the world. I think he's kind of like I don't know what kind of player to compare. He's got really nasty hands, and he could turn out to be one of those guys. But from what I've seen and what I've read, it doesn't really seem like he wants to sign with the Wings. So that's kind of interesting. This is his 4th year, right? Yeah, because I guess he would have one more year of eligibility if he wanted to. I think.
Yeah, he has one more year of eligibility because of COVID.
So I guess it remains to be seen. But after this year, if they can't get him signed now, you either trade him or you just don't sign him, I would say, at this point.
He's going to be one of those that if you're not signing, you're going to free agency, and then you have your choice. But in a way, it'll be disappointing if he doesn't end up coming to Detroit, only because I think we were rightfully so all kind of excited about him being like, there's potential that we saw, I think, that he could help this team maybe down the road, not right away. We knew it would be a bit of a project, but going to BU, I think, was the highlight. He played USA for a short time, the development program. He was big in the USAHL. He had a great little career there going to his draft year. And then it was just kind of there. And I think that was the disappointing part. We were waiting for that moment at BU where it would just click, and it didn't seem to happen. So if he is signed, he gets that chance in Grand Rapids, that'd be great. Get to see him out at camp, see what happens there, and let the rest play out. But I don't know. I maybe almost think that ship has sailed, and he's going to be free to sign elsewhere.
Yeah, he's the one that I think is if there's a guy they're going to sign. Now, there's a couple that were drafted fairly recently that I think will probably be signed. But if there was one from an older draft class, I think it would be him. The other one, the next one, 2019 round 4, number 97, Ethan Phillips, also played for BU. He's 21, 5'9", 154. So if you're looking at what Yzerman's been drafting, and Yzerman's been drafting basically 5'10" and up and on the heavier side. Yeah. And most of the guys are 6 foot and over, unless they're insanely skilled, and then he'll get them a little lower. But in this is his 4th year at Boston University, because there were COVID years. COVID messed a whole bunch of stuff up with the college players. But this last season, in 29 games played, Ethan Phillips had 4 goals and 7 assists for 11 points. His scouting report was defensively. He's a smart player who manages risks and reward, and is an effective shutdown guy at his foundation. They described him as kind of a water bug. He's fast out there, light on his feet, but he's small, so he can be pushed off the puck fairly easily, and he's light, so even more so. It's a guy that I think, again, a round 4, numbers 97 is a long shot to make the roster in the first place, to make the NHL in the first place. But it's a guy that if Master Simone doesn't get a contract, Ethan Phillips isn't getting a contract. And I think it's just, again, it's a casualty of you can draft so many people, but you're never going to sign everyone.
I remember talking about Phillips in the same breath when we were talking about the recap of Cider and stuff. Like that was, now that I actually do think about it, we knew he was small. I think the biggest thing we looked at was with Phillips and Mastrosimone. I think we always fall back on like the Braden Point or DeBrincat. Like these guys are small, but we can't write them off. But then you think about, like to your point, Greg, what you just mentioned, look at what Yzerman's been doing for his signings and where he's kind of shifted gears, if you will. And you look at how Detritus fared more often than not in physical hockey games. This doesn't speak to it. Now, I'm not saying that they can't have these types of guys on the rosters or have these types of guys on the roster, excuse me. Because isn't Berggren, is he 5'10"? Or is he 5'11"?
He's under 6 foot.
So he's on the smaller side, but you see what he can do along the boards when a guy's on him. Like he can more or less handle his own. Where with what we just talked about with Phillips and Mastrosimone, like can that also translate? But then you look at the weight, and again, it just depends on, you don't have to be the heaviest person, but sometimes it does make that much of a difference. So
yeah, you better do something really well if you're going to be undersized.
You better have the most amazing lower body workout program known to man.
Yeah, do the Martin St. Louis workout program. That'll work out. And I mean, honestly, like if you're undersized, you are a little bit at a disadvantage, but you better do something really damn well. Phillips, from what I know, I mean, he did play at Boston University for 4 years, had a down year this year, had only 11 points, and the team got all the way to the Frozen Four and then got shit pumped by Minnesota, who was just a damn juggernaut anyways. But yeah, no, I mean, he kind of got worse, as I know COVID kind of screwed with them. Like the 2021-22 season was his best. He had 17 points in 28 games. So really kind of more of a bottom line guy at this point. I don't think that he's a guy that would ever play in the NHL. I mean, you never know, I guess. Some guys are late bloomers, but I mean, if you're not putting up points in Hockey East with some really loaded Boston University teams, I mean, it's probably not going to work out for you. The other thing to just note is, Boston University did go through a coaching change where David Quinn left and then Jay Pandolfo took over. So they've kind of gone through a little bit of a transition where they weren't as good of a team, but they were really good this year. So, and he still only had 11 points. So that goes to show you he probably is going to make the NHL, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, like I think we had always said that you can be smaller, but it's how you develop and what your development path looks like. And if you make steady progress throughout your junior career, if it continues after your draft, or your college career, if it continues after your draft, that if you show that development, the teams will invest in you and they will put in resources, and you'll probably get a contract. If you develop into the player that they look at you and say, well, teams draft for potential. And if you build into that potential, then you're going to get the contract. But it's hit and miss once you get past a certain area, and even past the second round. I mean, there are second round guys that don't. Hell, there's a guy who got drafted round 1, number 19 by the Flyers. He's not going to sign with the Flyers. The Flyers are saying, we are not going to sign you. And the Flyers will get a compensatory pick. They'll get the 19th draft pick in the second round for that, because they're not going to sign him. But it's just that guys sometimes don't work out based on the development path you think they will take. And that's why the draft is a gamble. I mean, we'll move on to another guy who people had some high hopes for. That was 2019 round 3, number 66, Albin Gruve, who is 22 years old, 6 foot, 187 pounds. He's got the size. He's got getting the weight. I mean, everything in his draft report: strong skater, relentless on the forecheck, willing to play a committed brand of defense, blocking shots and getting a stick in the puck, plays with considerable energy. At some point, I'm like, man, maybe he could be a Marchand Light. They called him the T-Rex. He pissed people off.
Gruve is what Mazur has ended up being, arguably.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't think anything of Mazur. We thought Gruve was going to come in and be a Bert 2.0. And now Mazur is kind of taking that throne and then some.
Yeah, it says slick stick handler, dangerous in the offensive end, plays a fast game, works hard every shift, deadly on the power play. But he went from 2019-20 having 19 points in 23 games in the J20 Super Elite, played 19 games in the SHL, had 1 goal. Next season went to the SHL for 39 games, had 6 points, came to Grand Rapids and played 11 games and had 2 assists. Went to the Liga, played 4 games, went to the Hockey Allsvenskan, played 32. He played 41 in the Hockey Allsvenskan this season and has 11 points. Development fell off a cliff. And that is something where you look back at it and you go, this is a kid who had all the opportunities in the world. And it's just he couldn't put it together. He couldn't get he couldn't get his head on straight, or something happened. And it's just, I think he was maybe bounced around a little too much. And it's a guy you really hoped would get it going. But then you picked up a guy like a Carter Mazer who is doing the same kind of thing at probably a much higher level, because I think Gruve was always thought to be maybe a bottom 6 guy, but a bottom 6 really good agitator. And it's not going to pan out. And I don't see him getting a contract because it's just, again, you found a guy who you hope this guy would be, is this guy now in a Mazer. So I don't see Gruve getting a contract.
No, he's probably going to just continue that role of bouncing around maybe through the SHL or Allsvenskan. I totally butchered that, but I don't care. European hockey leagues.
The Allsvenskan.
Yeah, there's no. I threw an extra in there. Whatever. But it's disappointing because I know that we were very excited for him, and we thought that he was going to be playing. He was supposed to go to Flint and play, wasn't he?
Maybe it was Saginaw, not Flint.
It was one of them. It was either one.
I think it was Saginaw.
It was Saginaw. It wasn't Flint. Yeah, it was Saginaw. But anyways, like, it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out. And the fact that he was going to come over to Saginaw or Flint or whichever it was.
It was Saginaw. It was the 2020 CHL import draft.
Okay. So regardless, I mean, so he was going to come to Saginaw and it just didn't work out. And the fact that no other team reached out, or any other, OHL team or even Q or WHL team didn't reach out. I mean, that just kind of goes to show you that there's probably not a future in North America for him. Maybe in the ECHL. But I don't think at this point he's going to be worth, signing or anything like that.
And Saginaw even had a number picked out for him. They were ready to bring him on in.
Yeah, well, you know why, right? You know who are part owners of the Saginaw Spirit.
Chris Osgood is a partner of business operations. Jim Devillano is an advisor.
Yeah, there you go. So Jimmy D and Chris Osgood.
That's, 2 members of the Detroit Red Wings organization.
So they were ready to go because the Red Wings guys are part owners, but
hey, get your ass over here so we can watch you up close.
We're going to go through the next few. Gustav Berglund, again, is a big right shot defenseman, but he's 22 already. And he was drafted 2019 round 6, number 177. He has 11 points in 30 games for Karlskrona HK in the Hockey A10. So he went from the SHL to the Hockey A10, which is a lower league. And when you go backwards and you're already 22 years old, again, not a good look. Now, here's some that are a couple more we're going to go after that are a little more recent. So 2021, round 5, number 155, which is a late pick. 19 years old, 6 foot, 190-pound Oscar Plandowski, who plays right now for the Moncton Wildcats in the QMJHL. In 33 games, has 5 goals and 8 assists for 13 points. He is a right shot defenseman. He is one that I could see possibly getting a contract because he is a more recent pick. He is getting bigger. He is a right shot. And I think it'll be, if you look at his draft report, he changed mohawks into pivots, into crossovers, into absorbing contact. He can pretty much do all the skating moves you want. The handling and shooting skills are there too. Hands away from his body, steps into pucks. He's elusive. That was an EP 2021 draft guide report. Oscar Plandowski's dad is the Coyotes scout, So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with him because, that's not a terrible stat line for a defenseman. 13 points in 33 games in the Q, but he's been in the Q now for 3 seasons. This is he went from Drummondville to Moncton. So actually in 64 games, he has 19 points. So we'll see what happens there. He can go back to the Q for another year. I think it's possible he gets signed. Again, he's younger than the Gustav Berglund option and has another year of junior eligibility where he could go back and just show what he's got. And he's a more recent pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm either way at this point. I mean, if he's a good skating defenseman, then especially on the right D, which we know that they need to have, or I shouldn't say need to have, they're at a need for, I'll put it that way. Then having that depth, you sign him to an ELC. I don't think you're necessarily hurt by it. Again, because he is only 19. And if you take him in and see what happens in the queue, we see with Biakabatuka, I get it that the queue, as the joke or saying is, like all they do is score. There's no defense there. So, but could it be like Biakabatuka where it does help him in terms of now getting back on track and see how things go? Doucette, again, is another one of those guys that we don't know what's going to happen, because we look back at, Amantha. Yes, they scored a lot of goals in the queue, but does that necessarily translate over? It can. I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but I would be more okay with him sticking around on something short term than several of the other names that we've already gone through.
Yeah, Sam, I agree with that. I think the low risk, high reward kind of thing, I would, the goal scoring in the queue, I mean, that's certainly something that it can translate. I mean, Mantha scored a lot of goals in the NHL, not as much as we
good goals.
Not as much as we thought. We thought he was probably going to be a 30 goal scorer, and his career's kind of gone off the rails since he went to Washington, I think. Anyways,
but it started in Detroit.
No. I understand. I'm just saying, like, as when he got traded from Detroit to Washington, it just kind of got off the rails. But yeah, I mean, I'd be more okay with this one than probably any of the other ones at this point. Yeah.
And the last one we have tonight is Pasquale Zito. He is one I actually think should definitely, if any two get contracts out of here, I think it'll be Pasquale Zito. And if you're going to give one of the other draft picks a contract, it'll probably be Mastrosimone if he's going to take it, or Plandowski. But Pasquale Zito is 19 years old, 6'1", 176, drafted in the 6th round, 166 overall in 2021. For the North Bay Battalion this season, he had played 31 games and had 27 points, 7 goals, and 20 assists. For the Niagara Ice Dogs, in 23 games, he had 7 goals and 12 assists for 19 points. In 6 playoff games, he's had 7 points. So he's working, and he's a bigger guy who can play wing or center. He's a left shot, which, I mean, it is what it is. But it looks like there's talent there. In his draft year, he was one where, again, he missed the 2020-21 season because of COVID. In the season before, in 2019-2020, in 46 games, he had 13 points. In 2021-22, in 49 games, he had 42 points. He continues to progress. And that's what you want to see from a guy who you draft. Again, like we said, is continual progression in the right direction. And he's a guy who, I think, if you're going to sign 2 guys, if you're going to lose out on 6 and you're going to sign 2, I'm going to sign Pasquale Zito because he's shown the most progress. And especially since he's a bigger guy and he's only 19.
I mean, I wouldn't go too crazy. He's 6 foot. So I wouldn't get, in comparison to some of the other guys we're talking about, yes.
Bigger than the other guys we're talking about, yes.
Which is crazy to think, but I mean, there's potential there. And again, he's only 19, like you mentioned. So he will be 20 in June. So I don't think that's necessarily working against him. But when you look at, again, what they're going to need in Grand Rapids, he could fit a potential need. So does that mean he comes to Grand Rapids next season? I who knows? But maybe you see him go back and forth and see some time in Toledo and then come back up depending on how things go. So I wouldn't be against it like a couple other guys, but we'll just see how it plays out. I think he had, let me see, Plandowski has to be signed by June 1st. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be sad.
It's got a fucking great name, Pasquale Zito.
I'm sorry, Zito, not Plandowski. I don't know why I said, Plandowski is also June 1st, but Zito is June 1st as well.
The fact that he's a 6th round pick, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's been in the OHL for a while now. He's been in the OHL since 1920. So he played 46 games in that 1920 season. Then 2021, they didn't play at all. From what I see, I mean, I wouldn't see any downside of signing him. If you sign him, I mean, do you put him in Grand Rapids? I mean, he's only 19 years old. He's got not good size, but 6 feet, 176 is nothing to scoff at. Maybe you could put on some more weight and, you know, get up to 185 or something like that. And then you're.
Do they give him a redo year in the OHL because the OHL missed a season?
Did they give him a
college
redo
hockey
year?
does?
No, do they give, like, can he take another junior year because they shut down for a season?
That's possible. I'm not sure.
I'm not
That's a
sure
good
what
question.
they did with that.
But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be against this one. I'm probably more for than a lot of the other ones. He's played a lot of hockey, it seems like. I mean, other than that COVID year, but
And a lot of productive hockey.
yeah, I don't see any reason against this. He's been productive in the playoffs too. 7 points in 6 games so far for North Bay. So I mean, that's pretty damn good. I mean, I like I said, I wouldn't be against this one. I think I'm more for this one than the other ones.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready for the onslaught of people who are like, oh my God, how could you let all those people go? And it's just like, calm down, everyone. We have players and there's another draft. There's another draft coming up, and you stock the cupboards and you keep going and see who develops and you cut bait. And that's kind of what it is. It's just people don't realize that every year this happens. Like every year there's guys that we just don't sign. We let them go because you can't keep everyone because there's not enough room. But again, there's guys that we're going to need spots in Grand Rapids filled, not necessarily Toledo because they kind of do their own thing, but we're going to need a lot of spots in Grand Rapids filled because there's going to be guys moving on. There's going to be guys graduating. And I think it's more on defense because offenses, there's not a lot there that's NHL ready. There's nothing there that I think is NHL ready, but there's not a lot that's even close to NHL. Like the closest is probably Cross Hannes, and he's still a couple years away. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there, but they're going to have to get rid of like some guys like Chase Pearson's another one. Chase Pearson's going to be a free agent if he's not signed, and I see no reason for them to sign him right now. So there's going to be spots to be taken in Grand Rapids.
It also depends on what happens with Kasper too. I mean,
yeah.
Now that we found out he had a broken kneecap?
Broken kneecap for Marco
Remember how
Kasper.
excited we were a week ago, Tyler? Like, yeah, Kasper, he's out tonight, but he'll be back. Wrong.
And it's not even that it's just like he just broke his kneecap. Apparently he broke it in the SHL and it's just been broken. And he came over here and played that game on a broken kneecap, which is one, holy shit. Like that's insane.
So basically it was good enough to get through. He was probably trying to get to the off season. And then, the NHL is a bitch.
Like it probably wasn't that broken. It probably wasn't that broken because it's not going to require surgery. Apparently, it's going to fix itself. The kneecap's just going to fucking fix itself. It's a broken kneecap.
I wonder if it's like a situation where, like, I mean, not to toot, the United States' own horn, but like, the medical situation here in the United States is better than in a lot of situations. Like, is it a situation where he just didn't really say anything and then he heard it in that Toronto game? Or is it a situation where it was something that was lingering and then he got to Detroit and he just he played that one game and then he went to the doctors like, hey, something doesn't feel right on my knee. And then they did an MRI. And it's like, oh, yeah, you have a broken kneecap. You're done for the season kind of thing.
I could see it that.
Maybe because, again, they said it's not going to require surgery or anything. So I don't think it was anything super, super terrible. He just played the game and he's like, wow, my knee hurts.
Yeah, it's probably the access to, all of the medical equipment to actually check on the status and be like, hey, you're a little banged up. Let's go get that checked out. And they're like, oh, that's weird. That's a crack.
Yeah, the other thing is too, and like, I know he's a first round pick, but like as an athlete, just in general, like there's always that thought about what if I don't make it because of an injury? You know what I mean? Like, I know he's a high pick, but like young people always have different thoughts in their mind. Like, well, if I tell them that I'm injured and, I can't play the rest of the season, what does that do to my stock in terms of in the organization? Like, is this year's first round pick going to pass me up if I talk about this? You know what I mean? So maybe there's a little bit of that into it as well.
I don't know. I feel like with this one, I mean, your knee's going to be sore regardless of the contact and how things are going. I mean, it's comparable to as a catcher in baseball. Like, you're taking a beating all the time, and this is with the style of play that he has. I mean, you hope that it's going to be something that's a quick heal, and he's back out there soon to start his off-season training program. I don't know. I don't think that he would necessarily just hide it for the sake of, I want to go play hockey in Detroit. I feel like it was one of those that he probably may have thought it was just my knee hurts, I got banged up, and it didn't go away. And then you have the level of competition of the NHL and the fact that you've got old man Bunting out there going after kneecaps, figuratively, of course. Don't freak out, people. But that just was the final straw for him. And then they checked it out and they're like, oh, yeah, this is fucked up. You're done.
Yeah. And at this point, even if it was a lot more minor than they thought it was, it's best just to shut him down and then get him ready for off-season training before next season starts.
Absolutely.
You're no help with a broken kneecap that you make progressively worse by pushing yourself for no reason in a season where they're going to lose. Red Wings just lost 6-1. So,
yeah.
But I want to get you guys' final thoughts before we sign off tonight. And I'm going to start with Tyler.
Yeah, my final thoughts are, I mean, we got 2 games left, and then, everyone can enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know this will be year 7 without the Stanley Cup playoffs in Detroit. Is that where we're at this point?
Don't even mention it.
Anyways, it's been a tough go a bit, but the Wings, the one positive I'll leave everybody with, last year it seemed like the Wings were eliminated, in early March. This year they were eliminated with less than 10 games to play. So is that a small victory lap? Is that a what do they call it? Moral victory kind of thing? Sure. But you know what? In Detroit right now, in terms of sports, the Wings and the Lions are pretty much the two that, have the upside, where the Pistons are terrible and the Tigers are, forget about it right now. So, I mean, the Wings, certainly there's definitely, I always use the light at the end of the tunnel. There's certainly light at the end of the tunnel. We can kind of see it, especially at the end of this year. You saw Edvinsson. Unfortunately, Johansson didn't get a game, but you did see a little bit of Kasper as well. So you definitely did see a lot of the young guys, and Seider had a good season. And there's been some positives to the season. Like I said, missing the playoffs for the 7th straight year, or is it 7 or is it 6?
It's 7 years. I had memories pop up for the last game with the Joe, and it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, and like I said, there's some positivity, but you can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
My final thoughts are, the season's almost over. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that we did. It's been a roller coaster of ups and downs, but you can't fight the growth that took place. I think we were pretty damn close into the prediction realm this year. We thought that the high point was feasible if they had a fully healthy team that they would have brought into the season. That didn't happen, but it is what it is. The depth was there if they were healthy. Without being fully healthy, it wasn't there. And the goal scoring and things that they lost throughout the year did not help them. But we saw glimpses of what this team could be. And we finally got some of the top draft picks of the last couple of years on the ice at the same time when Kasper was out there against Toronto, which we hit up hard last week. So bright things are hopefully coming. And this is the final time, I hope, for the next several years that we're talking about another missed season of the playoffs. So we shall see. Now it's on to our bald friend here soon, so I can't wait. Artie Ryan 33.
Yeah, we do have Tony on to talk prospects. You guys better look up your fucking prospects for next week. I'm giving you a week of time to do prospect study, and I'm only going to make you do like the first 2 rounds.
First 2 rounds of
That's it.
Potential picks?
First 2 rounds, guys. And then I'll let Tony talk about the rest of them. But yes.
But Tony's so good at it, because it's his job.
He is. Also, apparently, Daniela Bruce got punched by Darren McCarty today accidentally. And then they put up on the big board that she is in concussion protocol. So he was doing something. He was doing something with his jacket. And as he opened his jacket, it's like hand hit her in the head. And she tweeted it out. It's really funny. So go check it out.
Is she actually?
Oh, wait, she posted a video of it. Oh,
yeah, she's fine. She got blasted right in the face, but it's pretty funny to watch. And then they put up Daniela Bruce concussion protocol up on the board. But you can follow me online at Bring the Wing. You follow Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. But to give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading us around at HockeyPodNet. If you use promo code Grindline at Bring Hockey Back, you get 12% off your order. Use that same promo code at Howie's Hockey Tape, you get 10% off. Check out our merch at redbubble.com by searching the Grindline. Sub to us on YouTube and turn on the notifications. We also give a shout out to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.
God, I missed like 3/4 of that shit.
You missed like the whole fucking thing.